Geek, Citadel.
Welcome to Alpha State, where I perform a quick analysis of early access games in their infancy and see how they shape up over a few patches. This roguelite 2D platformer drops us into the catacombs with only a weapon in our wits. Like many games of its ilk, you'll descend, climb, and fight your way through procedurally generated dungeons. There isn't much of a story to be had at the moment, but since this game is in early access, that's subject to change. Similarly to Rogue Legacy, you will play as a randomly generated character with various skill buffs and deficiencies. A trait such as like swords will give your kid a skill bonus, while a trait like clumsy will make them particularly loud when landing. You level up by picking up glowing orbs, or gain magical spells by finding books in the dungeon. It's fairly easy to get into the rhythm of bounding around and fighting off the denizens of the catacombs. You should expect to die without warning. This game is incredibly difficult, and it doesn't care how or when you die. You will enter a level and suddenly you've been slain by an orc or by drinking a potion that happens to burn you alive. Once death occurs, it's back to square one with a new kid and on to penetrating a new dungeon. Catacomb Kids is definitely not for the squeamish or the impatient. You have to take your time to assure yourself safe passage through the catacombs and keep your guard up against the terrifying AI of the monsters. I'm not going to say the game becomes easier when you get higher levels of gear, because I've never had the pleasure of becoming a powerhouse. Catacomb Kids takes pleasure in destroying your hopes and dreams, and more than likely, it was your own damn fault. This game also uses objects in a way that not many others have. You can eat the corpses of the fallen or throw their goo against a wall to create a sticky trap. You can combine meals in your stomach to increase your stats, use potions as bombs, and so much more. There is a lot to the system if you live long enough to bask in its glory. I don't mind the random skills that give the player some negative factors, but the negatives and stat points seem unnecessary. The game is already brutally hard to the point that it seems like an annoyance to lose stat points, especially when you enter a dungeon and instantly die from the swipe of an enemy after finding a perfect stat combination for your character. The level design is fine for a roguelike, but the levels become a cluster of cobbled rock too quickly. I like to see more of a varied look to the areas, if for nothing more than adding a bit more ambience to my continuous deaths. Since it's highly likely you won't make it deep enough into a dungeon to see it change scenery, maybe it should randomize a little bit more when the game starts. Platforming is a bit too floaty and will lead to tons of accidental deaths. I wish it was more traditional to the 2D spirit of Super Mario and other platformers. I found myself miscalculating jumps that would have been easier if my character was a little bit more precise. Whenever you start a new catacomb, the enemies are much too powerful. You'll face off against monsters who can take 5 stabs from your weapon and instantly kill you in one hit. It's a little too frustrating after dying multiple times in a session and finally gaining victory and receiving terrible drops. Since orcs don't mess around and can kill you in one hit at the start of the game, the reward for defeating them is usually an awful piece of gear. Since these hard-nosed fights can end with them simply winning through a battle of attrition, defeating them should feel more rewarding to the player, mostly because they are pretty adept at breaking through your attacks and ignoring any of your roll moves you attempt. This title also features a competitive mode, which is cool and all, but I'd love to tackle the dangerous catacombs with a pal. Come on guys, make it happen. As of early access release, Catacomb Kids is a brutally hard game that often focuses too hard on frustrating the player. It has a lot going for it in the way of a great item system and interesting combat. The AI is murderously powerful and unrelenting, the jumps are a little imprecise, and slaying the enemies isn't as rewarding as it could be. As of the first patch, the game is fun, but feels as if determination isn't enough to progress through the catacombs. I prefer better rewards and investment for tackling death at every corner. It needs a little less Dark Souls and slightly more Dungeon of the Endless at the moment. Let's see how Catacomb Kids shapes up in the next couple of patches. For more Geek Citadel plays and reviews, check us out on YouTube, Dailymotion, and GeekCitadel.com. Also, for the PC lovers, join our group on Steam Curator. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.